Hello, Starknet family. Welcome back to the Star Cafe. I'm Nurstar, your personal Star barista. And once again, we are ready to serve you with some very special Starknet content. So, guys, I'm very happy that today we are going to have a very on-chain gaming and autonomous world focused episode as we are hosting the guys from Realms.World, also known as Loot Realms, and you'll discover later on why we are calling it Realms.world. But I'm very happy to host Loaf and Secretive from this project. That was basically the first autonomous world project that was building on Starknet before the concept of autonomous world was a cool thing, let's say. And I remember that, yeah, they've been building on Starknet since the early stages. And during that time, I remember they fell under the label of Metaverse project. And then with the time, they started digging into the on-chain gaming and autonomous world topic. And they also contributed to creating the Dojo toolchain, which is a gaming engine written in Cairo to develop games on Starknet in a fast and easy way. So they've definitely been the leading, one of the leading projects when it comes to gaming on Starknet. So without much further ado, let's welcome them. Hello, Loaf. Hello, Secretive. Welcome to the Star Cafe.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having us. Lovely to be here. Looking forward to a stark espresso for my afternoon.
Very good.
Hello. Sorry, I'm dealing with my audio. I don't know what's going on. My headset just died, so I'm just on iPhone speaker. One sec.
No worries, Loaf. Take your time. And yeah, maybe in the meanwhile you can mute yourself. So that's okay. Very good. And well, yeah. So guys, let's start with I mean, let's start this promising session with an icebreaker about your background. So I'd like to know, how did your crypto life look like before Starknet, and how did you happen to start building on this scaling solution? If you want to start, Secretive, in the meanwhile, Love will solve its problems with the audio. Hello.
Sure thing. Yeah. My crypto journey started in a pub in London in 2015. I saw a poster outside of the pub saying, "Learn about the truth about money and understand Bitcoin." And I'd read about Bitcoin before at this point, but there's an event, as I say, in the pub. So I went to it, and the event was to celebrate the launch of the first Bitcoin ATM, either in the UK or in London. I can't remember which. And I remember sitting down and watching like a couple of videos that the event host kind of shared, and speaking to people. And I guess it was the start of quite a lot of reframing a lot of my thinking around, what money is, about finance, about personal finance. It really opened up a kind of a whole trench of new topics that, to be honest, as somebody who was working, I was working in marketing and advertising, and I was kind of, doing the sort of salary thing, and very rarely do I think about investing, or do I think about the value of money and how money effectively is diluted over time. All of these lessons were sort of learned over the course of a few hours in a pub. And on the way out, I put £20 into the Bitcoin ATM and got my first little chunk of Bitcoin. So I've kind of been, loosely connected to it from that point on, and over time my interest grew, and I started to invest in more in the sort of 2017 2018 period. And then around about 2020 I started to it went from being kind of a hobby to being like more my sort of professional kind of the mix of hobby and profession. And I was sort of CMO at a couple of different crypto projects before. In August 2021 when the loot big bang happened, which we might talk about a bit later on. But the deployment of the loot contract, at that point, I was very interested in, like everyone at the time, NFTs and things, and I was invited to come along and take a look at the project by Grug, the Dark Lord, as he's known in the community. And yeah, at that point, I sort of became interested in the Realms as this idea of building a game, an open source game as part of a collective of people. And at that point, the on-chaininess was kind of nice, but for me, the thing that really excited me is I love gaming, and I've been playing games since I was a kid. So the idea of like building a game involving crypto with people that I liked, in a sort of decentralized way was just very appealing. And over time, I contributed more and more to Bibliotheca DAO, the DAO behind the Realms project that's terraforming the Realms.World. And eventually, now I contribute, on a day-to-day basis to the growth of the Realms project and handle like communications and some of the ecosystem partnerships.
That was very inspiring, Secretive. And I've always been so inspired by your also non-technical, let's say, contributions. And you helped also spreading the Starknet vibe a lot beyond the Loot Realms one. And so you were also one of the first non-tech figures, non-tech roles that I made friends with. And you also supported me a lot, so I'm very happy to have this conversation with you and your project. And on behalf of the community, thanks a lot for everything that you've been doing for Realms and Starknet. And don't cry.
Oh man, honestly, I feel very honoured to meet you and your partner at those events as well. And the one thing I'll say back to you, which is whenever you speak, I feel like you're speaking through a smile. I think that you can actually hear your smile as you talk. So I reflect back those good thoughts back to you. I always enjoy, listening to you talk and speaking with you, because I think you bring like such a warm, positive energy to the Starknet community too.
That's great. I really appreciate that, Secretive. Thanks a lot. Let's see if Loaf managed to sort his audio problems out. Let's see. Hello, Loaf.
Testing. Is that better? Is that all right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Oh God, that was a Twitter Spaces being buggy as usual. So my journey started. I don't know. It was. I think I watched. I think it was. Yeah, I don't know. It would have been like 2014 or something. 2013, 2014. Just before the Ethereum. Yeah, maybe like 6 months before the Ethereum crowd sale. And I remember watching some MIT videos by Balaji. Actually, she was building this project back then called like he was going to put like a Bitcoin mining CPU in like every device. But that kind of just led me down the rabbit hole. And then, but really like the thing that I think is so important about this space and like is really the true only innovation. So like it's the underlying innovation of everything we're doing here is that blockchain removes the need for a trusted third party. So Bitcoin did it with money, and now Ethereum's doing it with computing. And so that's been my conviction from the beginning. And so I always carry that with me in anything that I do. That's the core focus. So, and if we're not really striving to build applications that remove, trusted third parties, then I'm not sure what we're even doing. So that's kind of where my origin story came from. But I've been a long time builder and just like software tinkerer and gamer. But I didn't really start really fully building in the space until like 2019, 2020 when I started to dabble in some DeFi stuff. But then I never really I never really wanted to go all in on any project back then. DeFi was interesting to me, but I was kind of busy with other things at the time, so I was just kind of like dabbling in my free time. But then and then Loot happened in like 21, and Loot kind of flicked a switch in my brain, and it kind of just caught me the idea of this totally bottom-up world build without a, with no central party controlling the narrative, fully on-chain, decentralized world build just kind of like nerd sniped me. And from that period on, about a week later, from Loot, we kind of just made a website called Biblioteca for Loot, which was just like a subgraph, graphed all the Loot projects together, and then we thought, well, what do we want to do next? And then that kind of led us to, thinking about on-chain games and trying to build an on-chain game, running on Arbitrum at the time. But then we kind of realized that was kind of a bit of a dead end back then. It wasn't really a dead end, but we wanted to explore a bigger design space, and so that kind of led down the road of ZK, and then learning about Starks and Snarks and all that wonderful world. And then we kind of migrated everything to Starknet, and we've been building on in the Starknet stack ever since then. And then leads us to now. I'm a core contributor of Dojo, core contributor of Biblioteca DAO, and I spend my time building on-chain games and kind of helping, kind of building on-chain gaming tool sets and tools and whatnot. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Awesome, Loaf. And yeah, congratulations for everything you've done during the past 2 years. And as you said, you contributed a lot to the Dojo toolchain, to the Dojo gaming engine. And I think that the creation of the Dojo engine also accelerated this trend that begin like with on-chain gaming. I mean, there were some discussions about the potential of Starknet in the on-chain gaming field, but after Dojo, everything intensified, and also the rhythm intensified a lot, and the concept of autonomous world also kind of took over everything, and and congratulations for for your contributions, and well. Some listeners might have noticed at the beginning that I mentioned the name Realms.World, which is gradually taking over the traditional Loot Realms one. And I suppose that this isn't just a rebranding, but it is also a change that reflects the evolution that this project has gone through during the past months, the past year. So first of all, let's take advantage of this rebranding by breaking down the history of Loot.Realms, while we'll be covering the reasons of the evolution into Realms.World later on. And let's go wild with an history class on Loot Realms, please.
Yeah, sure. So Loot Realms was originally 8,000 NFTs that spawned. Like it was like one of the first. I think it was first or second loot derivative, and it's 8,000 generative lands, all with different resources and different traits. And so that's kind of what Loot Realms are as an NFT. And then from that, we thought about building an on-chain game using Loot and using Loot Realms. And so from basically the process of doing that, we kind of formed this idea of like, well, we want to push on like the whole concept of what Loot is meant to be, which is an open world build. And so the absolute original OG design of the kind of on-chain game was like this. It was pretty basic, but the idea was that it could be extended, and it kind of every resource was like its own fungible token, and people could incorporate these fungible tokens into other experiences. And so it was like a very primitive version of like what we have now, and it really is like a similar kind of idea. Like it really is like the autonomous world thesis, although we didn't probably as eloquently explain it back then. But the idea, how I see it, is like we're trying to build a world that can be extended, and anyone can do it, and because it's on a public network, that allows anyone to be able to do it, and it's permissionless. So that was really the origins, and that is really what we've been pushing on the whole time. It's just kind of taken, it's kind of evolved from there. And like back then, we didn't actually know how to do it. Like we were just like, okay, this is a great idea, but like, how do we even do it? So then we had to figure out like, how do we do it? And then it turns out it's actually pretty hard to do. So that kind of trials and tribulations actually led to the creation of Dojo, kind of down that path, as well as like other Starknet projects kind of having the realization as well. Because like building on-chain games is a very difficult task because there was basically no tooling available. Now there's like plenty of tooling available. Now it's really easy, but back then it was like there wasn't any. It wasn't any way to structure your contracts. There wasn't like automatic indexing. There wasn't really a good way to structure your data, and it was very kind of an unknown kind of tech tree, so to speak. So, but now Realms.world is really just like it's still the same kind of like DNA. It's just we're evolving it, and like any project should keep evolving. But it's still very much tied to the original idea of the whole thing. It's just as time goes by, you evolve things. So Realms.world is really like the manifestation of the last 2 years. And now we're at a point where we can actually build these things easily, and it's not just like and anyone if you know React and you know some Cairo or Solidity, then you can build games now, on-chain games now. It's not like out of the realm of a kind of a like you don't need to be super experienced in every single part of the tech stack now. You just really need to know how to build a client, and you know how to write some smart contracts. But like Dojo kind of explains like how you should structure your game, so you don't have to think from like from scratch. It kind of jumpstarts you to where you need to be. So, but we're there now, which is really exciting. Like it's taken a while.
Great, Loaf. What an amazing overview of the Loot Realms history. And after learning more about the origins and the early days of Loot Realms, even though you also started answering this question a bit, let's dive deeper into this rebranding into Realms.world, sorry. And I wanted to know what's the reason, and above all, what's the vision behind Realms.world?
Okay, yeah. Well, so we have been known as like Loot Realms and Realms, and I think that the journey that Loaf has talked you through from starting life as an idea to build an on-chain game to evolving to where we are now, which is building what's termed an autonomous world, which is a kind of permissionless gaming world where anyone can come along and add to that world. I think that we were, over the last 2 years, we were kind of known for one of the main products of the DAO, which is a game called Eternum, which is the game of 8,000 realms competing on a map for resources and influence and what's happened over time is that actually we developed a different approach. This autonomous world approach has evolved, and we've evolved with it. And now we think of ourselves as a network. So in the same way that Ethereum is a decentralized network that's not owned by any controlling central party, it's owned by all of its users. Realms.world is now more of a network because it's governed by these 8,000 realm holders, and so therefore we are a credibly neutral network as opposed to being owned by a founder who has been invested in by a number of VCs. So we've kind of got this credible neutral stance as a network owner, and Eternum is a game in that world, but there's actually lots of games being built in that world. And so we wanted to, in rebranding from Loot Realms to be known more as Realms.world. Realms.world is the website where all the games will be. but two, we wanted to move the understanding that people have of us from being the creators of the game Eternum to being the terraformers of this bigger ecosystem, this network that anyone could build games on top of. And we also wanted to keep some of our sort of DNA, the things that people knew about us, which is, the lords, the crowns, the association with maps. But we wanted to move away from it being seen as just purely a medieval style world, and actually to be considered more of a multiverse fantasy world. And in doing so, it means that when people come along and they add games to the Realms.World, they can bring whatever style, genre, era that they want into their for their game world. Can be anything and can still fit into our world, and it's no longer doesn't have to be about knights and dragons and things like this. So it's about moving to the name Realms.World. A, it's where we're located online, Realms.World, and B, it's broadening out the understanding that we are a network filled with all kinds of games from different technologies, eras, styles.
Very cool, Secretive. And it's very impressive how you managed to build not only an autonomous world, but in terms of community building, you definitely built like an autonomous family in the sense that your community is very, very vibrant, very active. You hold a lot of community cults, the Frontini House, which, if I remember well, is a sort of community call. And regarding the games being developed on Dojo, and obviously you also play a very active role. Your community plays a very active role in the Dojo development as well. And speaking about your community, first of all, I would love to say hello to some of our listeners, and among them, I also see a lot of community members from Realms.world. And as I was saying, Katitat recently wrote an overview thread that you can see also on the comment section below. And this thread was about all these projects that are being developed inside the Realms.World autonomous world. And so let's break them down together. So we're talking about Loot Herald, Rising Revenant, Loot Underworld, Arcane Assembler, Loot Royale, and probably many others. So the word to Secretive, and let's have a look at these games.
Sure. So the first one, we've got like a list we're looking at here. The first one that's on the list is Loot Herald. Now that one, so in the last Frontinus House grant round, we, or rather the community, the DAO members voted on which projects to give a Lord's grant to. And I think 24 or 25 projects applied, and 10 grants were given, 8 of which were games. So there are 8 games being built in the Realms ecosystem alongside the games that DAO itself is building, and alongside games that are being built by people independently without the support of the DAO. So there's like, we're actually not sure how many games are being built at the moment, and we know that more will start being built in the game jam, the Dojo game jam this weekend. So it's actually hard to keep up with all the games being built. But just going through the list we have here. So Loot Herald is actually one of the non-gaming projects, but it's a really important one because it's it's like a newspaper that reports on the comings and goings of the Loot verse, as it's called. So Realms is part of the Loot verse. So that Loot Herald is looking to create quality journalism about the projects being built inside of Realms, but being built further abroad in the ecosystem too. And they put on things like bi-weekly calls and create content for the various projects to reach their to put the word out about their projects. The next project on the list here is Rising Revenant, which I think Loaf is well positioned to talk about.
Yeah, Rising Revenant is a survival kind of survival royale game. I mean, I don't really want to say too much about it, but yeah. It's been developed by Grug and his team. So, I mean, expect a prototype pretty soon. I mean, less than a month. I think they're planning on doing a prototype in Istanbul. So, yeah, but it revolves around these revenants which you enlist, and they go and travel to locations, and then you need to keep them alive, and the last one alive, wins the game. So, and that's all I can really say.
Very good. What about Arcane Assembler?
So,
Sorry.
go on, Loaf.
You go.
Oh, so that one is about spell casting. So it's a deck building game where you're looking to create the most powerful spell that you can, but the challenge is that the more powerful the spell becomes, the more chaotic it is, and it might destroy you. So the game is about creating the most powerful spell you can using kind of various things, but without destroying yourself in the process. And that one's cool because not only is it an on-chain game, but it's also a physical game that's being printed and produced as well. So that's nice.
Very good. And I think we skipped also Loot Underworld, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
This one is completely bonkers. It's so cool. So if you imagine the realms are 8,000 pieces of land set on a map. Well, the team that are building Loot Underworld came along and said, well, what if there are chambers underneath the realms that can be accessed through portals in the land above? And these guys have given some presentations of their early work and their prototypes, and you can follow them online on Twitter. But the kind of concept is that there is effectively infinite dungeons, infinite chambers filled with procedurally generated chambers and AI-driven environments and monsters. So there's so much to unpack about that project that we probably couldn't even begin to touch the sides here. But it's worth following those guys and checking out their website, because they are producing good quality content about their building journey as well as developing the game, which is, I think it's really nice to not only have great developers but also have good communicators who keep their community engaged with what they're doing as well as building.
Very well, Secretive. And also, I wanted to correct something wrong that I said earlier. The game which won the first Dojo Jam is called Z Knight, and it is a game that works on turn. If I remember well, I played with it, and we also had the pleasure to host Chillax. You can watch the Star Cafe episodes about it on our YouTube channel, Nurstar, and subscription would really help us a lot. And having said that, also, yeah, let's say some words on Beer Baron. I heard that somebody got busy in the dojos. Somebody from the jury got busy on also creating a game during the first Dojo Jam, and I suppose he's here with us. So, Loaf, would you like to say something about your little game, your beer business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the hope is that it will flourish into something greater. So, yeah, there'll be some update on that pretty soon. But yeah, Beer Baron's a digital beer brewing game when you exist as a monk on a realm, and you're quite an entrepreneurial monk, and you're up against other monks in these session-based games. So picture a game that might last for an hour or it might last for a week. It's actually determined on the game creator. And within this game, you can buy hops, and the hops are actually based on a VRGDA. So a VRGDA is basically is an auction that is based on supply and demand. So if too much is being purchased, then the price goes up. If not enough is being purchased, the price goes down. But it's all algorithmic driven. So and so there's a bunch of those that determine the hop prices, and then you buy the hops, you grow hops, and then you brew beer. And then the beer takes different recipes of the hops, and then you sell the beer into the tavern market, which is also a VRGDA, except it's an inverse VRGDA. So if you sell too much beer into the market, you actually crash the price, and then your beer is worth zero, and you have to wait for the price to recover. But because there's multiple different types of beers, you actually have to try to forecast what other people are buying, and then and producing, and then not produce what other people are producing, so you get the most return on your beer. And then with your gold that you generate from that, you buy these things called indulgences. And I implore everyone to go and check what indulgences were back in the Middle Ages. But and then basically the person with the most indulgences at the end wins. So yeah, it's kind of what was the goal with it was try to create this like circular economy, like totally contained within this little session, but very player driven and very math driven. But like from a player point of view, you don't have to know that much. You just kind of have to watch the market and then kind of react to it. And there's a lot of choices you need to make in it. So yeah,
That's great, Love. Really,
beer.
really looking forward to brewing beer like an OMG, an original monk gangster, and yeah, I'm sure we'll be having a great fun playing with that game, and over some beers, of course. And what else? Also, like Secretive, would you like to mention Loot Royale as well, which is a game currently developed on MAD, but I've been hearing that I read from the Calcucats thread that they're deploying on Starknet soon on Dojo.
Yeah, so Loot Royale is like a battle royale game, which is, if you think of anyone here who's played Catan, it's like a kind of imagine a board game like Catan. We have an island, but the island is shrinking. The playable area is shrinking, sort of forcing people into combat. So it's another kind of quite interesting game system being built in Cairo, and it's if you think about all the games we're talking about here, they're all being built with Dojo using the same standards. So what's happening is there's a proliferation of game systems and primitives being built, so that in the future people can come along and they can pull together a prototype for a game using all these other different elements from other games over the course of a weekend. So that's kind of like one of the sort of missions of Realms.World and Bibliotheca DAO and obviously Dojo, is to just, that's why we're so active, attracting developers to the ecosystem. We're constantly running hackathons and game jams and encouraging devs to get involved, because every single time that someone experiments and builds something new in Cairo and Dojo, that becomes a kind of another code library, another object that future game devs can come along and work with to build their games. So we just, there's another, Calx on the call could probably speak for another hour about the other games that were just the first half of the games that were funded by Frontinus House that have presented their initial work, and there's another 6 games or something we haven't talked about. But the overall objective and the overall mission is to just keep driving the amount of code written, so that it becomes a trivial thing for game designers who want to take advantage of the StarkNet ecosystem and the power of Starks to come along and build games inside of perhaps the Realms autonomous world, or perhaps the Influence world, or perhaps one of the other worlds that will appear in the coming weeks, months, and years. The Dojo world, sorry, the Dope Wars world, for example. So yeah, That was a kind of long-winded explanation, but yeah, Loot Royale, it's another cool game being built by Blade DAO. So it's another example of, yes, you have Bibliotheca DAO, which is building games inside of the Realms network, the Realms Autonomous World, but there's also other DAOs and other game studios and other indie game devs who are building inside of that world, outside of our control.
Very interesting. And as we transition towards the final part of today's Star Cafe, let's also speak about the Loot Survivor game, which is developed by the Realms.World core team, and we've also heard that its mainnet launch is around the corner. So, do we have any spoiler or no?
Well, what I'll do is I think I'll talk you through what people can expect, because there's going to be quite an exciting run up to the launch on mainnet. So if you imagine that we're building something that nobody has built before, it's when it goes onto startnet, it's going to be an immutable contract, so it won't be able to be updated. It's one of the more complex, sophisticated on-chain games that exists. Certainly, when it gets to mainnet, a lot of the games that people are playing at the moment, they are on test nets. And so they don't have to worry about things like gas and UX, because you just you kind of sweep those things under the rug for now. But we've pushed really hard to have a complex on-chain game live on mainnet, and that game is called Loot Survivor, and it's a roguelike survival game. It's a strategy game, and it's incredibly tough. And you effectively mint an adventurer for a couple of dollars, and then you take that adventure into the mist, and you encounter beasts and traps, and you might find good things like health potions and gold, and you might find bad things like like traps and obstacles that hurt you. And so what we're asking players to do is to try and get the best possible XP score in a game session, in a run. So when that game goes to mainnet, it's going to be kind of pretty kind of big news for the on-chain gaming community, we believe, because it's kind of a bit different to everything else that's out there. We've just had to test it really, really, really well. And Loaf can obviously speak to this in a lot more depth and detail, but we've had to make sure that when we go to mainnet, that there's no bugs, and that it's been built in such a way that it can't be botted. So if you were to come along and participate in the testing, we're completely open, so people can come along and play the game whenever they want to. But it's been a battle with bot designers to try and make a game that humans are on an equal playing field with. And so we're really happy that we're actually now at the point where the contracts are robust, the front end is really stable, and we believe that the systems in place mean that it can't be botted easily, or that bots can't actually have any kind of advantage over a human player. So when you see a score submitted to the leaderboard, it's earned. The next couple of weeks, because I think we're now on a sort of weeks kind of basis. I won't give exact dates, but there's sort of three things that will happen. So we will release the final contract, the final game contract to testnet, and we'll invite people to come and participate in a tournament, which will have a prize attached to it for the person who gets the best leaderboard score in that tournament. And that's soon. That's potentially next week, without confirming anything, but all being well, that will be next week. And then, assuming that everything goes well with that, then the intention is to run a similar tournament, but this time on mainnet. And what will happen is that version of the game on mainnet will be a short-term version, which will stop working. It will kind of brick itself after a couple of days. So it's a way of testing on mainnet to make sure everything is working, and then subsequent to that, then there'll be the mainnet launch. So can't give exact dates, because these previous tests, their job is to establish, like, is everything working okay, and do we discover anything that we didn't expect? But we are thinking about weeks until we're on mainnet. So watch this space.
Awesome. Alpha Secretive. Thanks a lot for that. Looking forward to playing, in the competition, and also, yeah, to take part into the mainnet launch. And yeah, I wish you all the best with the future developments on both the loot survivor front, but also overall on the all experimentations and developments that are taking place in the Realms.World space, autonomous world, and also in the development of the dojo game engine. And yeah, we've come to the end of our Star Cafe. It's been a pleasure to be speaking with you, with Secretive and Loaf from Realms.World. We learned a lot of amazing stuff, and we're really looking forward to having you back at the Star Cafe. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
a lot,
for coming.
guys.
Right. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
It's been an amazing Star Cafe. And also, a big thank you goes to all the listeners. Thanks a lot once again. And we had an amazing time. See you next week, as we are also going to have an on-chain gaming and autonomous world a roundtable, where also Loaf will be taking part into. And there will be like 6, 7 speakers. From gaming projects, speaking about the potential of on-chain gaming on Starknet, and also on discussing about how we can attract more people and gamers from the trade game field, and how to improve the reputation of crypto games. And also, there will be definitely much more than that. So stay tuned. It will be on Tuesday at 12 UTC. So yeah, stay tuned and have a look at my profile to to get all the info you need about this roundtable around gaming. Having said that, it's now time to close. Remember to share the Starknet vibe, and see you next time. Bye, guys. Take care. Cheers.